that, you look up and you don't think he's done all that much, but all of a sudden he's got 20 and 10 every night. That's the way he's been. And Pitt off to a good start.
Well, Horton knocks down his first three, and the young man had 5 3-pointers in that game against Virginia Tech on Wednesday. So, this Pittsburgh team is coming in confident, but one of the things they've struggled with is handling prosperity after a big win. But normally it's a lesser opponent that they're playing against. This time they get the top team in the ACC, and you see the energy level is here to begin the game.
Now Pittsburgh seeking wins over ranked opponents in back-to-back games. And the ball loose and scooped up by the Cavaliers. Virginia rebounded from a loss to Virginia Tech to beat NC State on Wednesday, 64-57. A hard-fought victory inside the conference. Here's Hauser. He'll give it up. Shot clock inside 10 again here for the Cavaliers. Hauser swings it deep into the corner, and the jumper by Clark off target.
And you see right now Pittsburgh is going to give Kihei Clark, Reese Beekman the opportunities that they want from beyond the arc, but they are going to make sure they give Hauser, Huff, and Murphy extra special attention, because they feel as though those are the 3 guys that make this vaunted Virginia offense go, averaging over 71 points per game.
Champagnie rolling in ever so smoothly to make it 7-0 for the Panthers.
And a slow defensive rotation for Virginia. As much as their offense has been talked about, their defense is not the same as what Tony Bennett has gotten used to in Charlottesville. And right now you see a slow rotation allowing Justin Champagnie to get a relatively easy layup.
Pop by Hauser. That'll go down for 2. Actually a 3-pointer for Sam Hauser, the 6'8" senior.
But Obi, now you see why Jeff Capel is going to give Sam Hauser extra special attention. He doesn't need much space at all to be able to get a good look from beyond the arc. And when you consider the fact that he's shooting over 41% on the season, he's going to be aggressive in trying to find his opportunities from beyond the arc.
Cavaliers, of course, under Tony Bennett, they are still the reigning national champions, because we didn't have one last year and they won it in 2019. Murphy with a long one that won't drop. Trey Murphy with a miss.
Well, Obi, I'll take my analyst hat off for one quick second, and as a UVA alum, I will say you don't have to qualify it with why. Just recognize that still the reigning national champions. That's all that matters. Okay, analyst hat back on now, Obi.
Right back on again. All right, Pitt leading at 9-3. And 5 minutes in, a good start for the Panthers. Very choppy start for Virginia. You see they're 1 for 6 and just not hitting right away, as Clark will line it up, and on cue he will knock it down.
But Obi, the difference in that 3-point field goal shot by Kihei Clark in comparison to the first 2 that he's taken in this game, there was no thought process. It was simply catch and shoot with confidence, and that's what Kihei has to do. He's a capable scorer from beyond the 3-point arc. Oftentimes I think he gets caught up as to whether he should or should not take that shot.
Beekman reaching in, commits the foul. So 14:37 to go. First half, 9-6. The Panthers in front.
Even though there is so much against us.
College basketball, I personally believe that you need to have 6 fouls in college basketball. Kay Cunningham got in foul trouble. Of course, I'm watching that game because it's Kay Cunningham, who's one of my guys, versus another one of my guys, Matt Coleman. For Texas, playing against each other, and Cade is on the bench, 5 minutes into the game. But when you think about the freedom of movement and the ticky-tack fouls that are now called in college basketball, you got to give guys 6 fouls. Otherwise, the big-time players that you go to watch oftentimes are going to be sitting on the bench for the majority of the first half.
No doubt about it. An air ball right there at the horn, never got to the iron. So it goes back over to Virginia, and Pitt's lead has been sliced down to 3. Jeff Capel in his 3rd year at the helm for the Panthers. He said before this season began, this is the year Pitt has to win. Turn things around and win. 9-5 coming in, 5-4 in the conference, and they played a lot of close games, Corey.
They have, but this is a team, Obi, that after a Duke win at home was sitting at 4-1 in the ACC and then lost 3 straight games. They gave Wake Forest their first win of the season. right afterwards. So, Jeff Capel trying to find a level of consistency with this team and maturity that they show up each and every night and play the way that they're being coached to play, also with the level of intensity that will allow them to be successful.
Tell you what, early, both teams are having difficulty with the shot clock and getting it off in time. Horton will lift and it'll stick.
Well, that's not just a stick, Obi, that's a wedgie.
that is a big-time wedgie.
That is a wedgie, and again, from a knockdown shooter in Horton, but it was a great pass from Champagnie out of the trap. And if you're Virginia, you're going to double team. Someone's going to have to get to Horton because he's not the guy you want shooting open opportunities in the blue uniform.
Here's Johnson, who's coming off a great day, 32 points coming off the bench in the victory over Virginia Tech. My thought is if you get a wedgie like that, you have to give up the basketball. Forget about the possession arrow. You give it up if it sticks like that. Are you with me on that? No question. It's embarrassing enough, isn't it?
In a pickup game, yes. In a pickup game, yes. But in college basketball, I will stick with the possession arrow, but I do understand your premise behind that, and I'm with you.
Johnson, nice dish for Champagnie and 2.
And that's where Xavier Johnson's at his best. Of course, he knocked down 4 3-pointers versus Virginia Tech, but when he's getting downhill into the painted area, he's not only able to score for himself, but find his teammates. That's where he's most dangerous. One of the reasons why he leads the ACC in assists at over 6 a game. And another reason why Justice Champagnie is the leading scorer in the ACC, because he's been a beneficiary of a number of nice finds from Johnson. Just like a nice look from Sam Hauser off the dribble there. And he shoots it the way you like it best, Obi. He doesn't mess around with that rim. It's strictly net when he puts it up there.
All net, the pretty way, Don't mess with the iron if you don't have to, if you have that kind of touch. Here's Audi's Tony. He comes in at 15 points and 6 rebounds. He's going to draw a rare Virginia foul. They hardly ever foul. Just 13 per game, which is number 2 as far as the fewest in the country with 12:07 to go.
Yeah, Virginia only fouling 8.8 times per game. I'm sorry, I take that back. That's the turnovers. So it's only 8.8 turnovers per game, and their fouls.
13 fouls a game, yeah.
Yeah, but when you look at it, they don't give you many opportunities. That's the one thing about Tony Bennett coach teams. They don't beat themselves. They don't turn the basketball over. They don't foul you unnecessarily and give you easy ways to score, which is one of the reasons why they're perennially one of the best defensive teams in the country.
Right. Such a clean team, in so many ways. On a penetration, good defense there, and denied by Cafaro as he knocked it. That's 9 on the shot clock and a timeout. We have 11:55 to go in a quick moving first half, and Virginia down by 3. Pitt getting out in front quickly with a hot hand, but the Cavaliers starting to cut back into it. As you mentioned, they are number 1 nationally in fewest turnovers per game. They are number 7 in scoring defense, averaging just 60 points per game. Last year's team led the nation, allowing just 52. Now you talk about, the championship a couple of years ago, and they're still the reigning champs. 2018 NCAA tournament. First 1 seed to lose to a number 16 seed. Man, did that motivate the team the following year, and talked about it incessantly. This and set up this matchup really very much on the fly, which has become the norm in professional and college sports these days.
It has been the norm, and of course we commend the ACC as well as these coaches and players. And Jeff Capel now 39-41 during his career at Pittsburgh, coming off their biggest win of the season, as you mentioned, versus Virginia Tech. And oftentimes they struggle in that next game, but they're playing down to their competition, this time playing up. When you talk about playing against the best team in the ACC to this point, and right now Pittsburgh has had a great energy and great effort to start the game.
Horton, a very dangerous 3-point man for the Panthers, 37%. Will settle for 2 and drop it in. And Pitt has a 13-8 advantage on Virginia.
And we've gotten used to see Horton do the majority of his damage from beyond the 3-point arc, but right there showing that he's more than just a 3-point shooter, going off the bounce to the mid-range to give Pittsburgh the 5-point lead.
Virginia early on here, Corey, really settling for a lot of 3-pointers, and he missed a bunch of those early on. One of the reasons they're trailing here, they're 2 for 8 beyond the arc so far, trying to get inside here. And a rebound picked off by Odikali.
Yeah, but Obi, when you mention those numbers, you have to recognize the fact that Kihei Clark has taken 4 3-pointers already for Virginia. That plays into the hands of what Jeff Capel is asking. Sam Hauser is 1 for 1 from beyond the arc, but it's Casey Morcell, Trey Murphy, all those guys 0 for 1. So if Coach Capel can keep Jay Huff, Sam Hauser, and Trey Murphy from getting those looks, he'll live with the other guys taking the threes, because Virginia is almost like an inverted lineup where their best shooters are their 5, their 4, and their 3-man in their starting lineup.
Huff, one of those guys, coming in averaging 14, the 7-footer, knocking down a long one there to make it a 2-point game. Pitt coming in 9-5. They're 5-4 in the ACC. Played a lot of close games, 14 games, 8 of them decided by 10 points or less. And a turnover picked off by the Cavaliers, and here comes Virginia.
And that's the one area, if you're Pittsburgh, you do not want to have high turnover numbers versus Virginia. Possessions are so difficult to come by when you play, especially here in Charlottesville. And Virginia normally takes advantage of those opportunities, as they do here with Jay Huff driving it, and the opportunity for the and one. And Obi, Jay Huff had to make sure we were on ESPN before he got started. He didn't want to do his business on ESPN News. He knocks down the 3 as soon as we go to ESPN. And then, of course, you have to pay him so much attention from beyond the 3-point arc. But a skilled big man who has the opportunity to put the ball on the floor and finish through contact, now with an opportunity for not only the and one, but also to give Virginia the lead.
And like most of the guys on the Virginia team, he is a tremendous foul shooter. Naturally, he misses there, but 89%. And as a team, if you shoot 80% and you're a Cavalier, you're bringing your team's percentage down, because they're 82%, one of the best in the country. In those close games, they are money.
That's no pressure. No pressure at all.
Sweet touch there by Champagnie, the ACC's leading scorer and rebounder.
Yeah, nice move by Champagnie, but more importantly, Champagnie not getting double teamed on that possession, and give him, the opportunity to recognize when you don't see the double team that it's his opportunity to go and be aggressive trying to score.
Hauser from the corner, can't find a range early on. Pitt up by 2. Virginia just 3 for 10 outside the 3-point line. Johnson can't hit. Xavier Johnson, he's coming off a great game. 32 points, and he did that off the bench against Virginia Tech. He's a guy who started almost every game throughout his career. He's a junior now. He found out 10 minutes before the game he was coming off the bench, and it worked beautifully, as did that jumper from Beekman.
Yeah, Jeff Capel said that he needed to shake something up in the lineup, and that shakeup was Xavier Johnson and Ithiel Horton, both those guys who had a great practice on the Tuesday prior, but an awful practice on Monday. So Jeff Capel going with a difference, and it paid dividends for his team, especially for Xavier Johnson, who came off the bench for the first time in his Pittsburgh career. And that was 79 straight games that he started coming off the bench, in game 80 for him, which happened to turn out to be a career high.
Well, the turnover by Pitt, but you've got to make sure you have eyes in the back of your head when Champagnie is on the floor with you, because that was an outstanding pass. It was simply mishandled. Hauser goes in strong for 2.
And Virginia now picking it up on the offensive end of the floor. Got off to a slow start, but now you see the guys that Tony Bennett wants to take the shot. Sam Hauser, Jay Huff starting to get involved in the offense, and it's worked to their advantage. But give Koulibaly credit for going Jay Huff on Jay Huff, getting a little payback. Jay Huff took him to the basket on the earlier possession. Koulibaly coming back with a nice move of his own.
Yeah, I think that got under his skin a little bit. Not a big scorer, but every once in a while he can help you out. Way downtown, it won't drop for Beekman, and knocked out of bounds. It'll go the other way when we come back from the timeout. 7:24 to go in the first half. Virginia by 1. Penny, the twin brother of Justin, is a star in his own right at St. John's. In fact, he leads the Big East in scoring. Well, Justin leads the ACC. You talk about getting stuff done.
Absolutely. When you think about the household, I wonder what those conversations are like after games for Justin and Julian. But I can tell you right now, Julian is waiting for Justin's game to be over so he can call him and let him know, hey, I had 24 today versus Providence. And by the way, we won 6 straight at St. John's. So I'm sure Julian is checking his twin brother out today and seeing if he can have a similar performance as he did as on his own.
No question. And Justin averaging 19 and 12 rebounds a game. He's one of the great rebounders in the country. Coulibaly in heavy traffic. That's deflected out.
Yeah, Julian
talking
has
about brothers, yeah.
Yeah, well, Justin has the advantage over Julian when you talk about the rebounding. When you look at these last 3 brothers to average 19.3 plus points per game, and you look at the top of the list, my boys, the Curry brothers, and then Marcus and Jordan Howard getting it done. You know, you think about Justin and Julian Champagnie and Obi. I was looking at the notes. There were a set of brothers at Indiana back in 1964 that both averaged over 20 a game, and they played on the same team.
And, so obviously they shared the sugar. I mean,
oh, absolutely. I love it.
Got that done.
But when you think about that, I mean, that's over 40 a game from 2 brothers, and they did it back-to-back years. That's impressive.
Murphy lets fly. He's off to a chilly start. Pitt back on top by 1 here in Charlottesville. Going to launch a little too quickly. 6 minutes to go in the half.
And Pittsburgh has been notorious, and I, say that word not lightly, because since you are the notorious DOB, you know about this, but Pittsburgh's been notorious for having slow starts, especially in ACC play. So Jeff Capel has to be happy not only with the offense, but the defensive effort as well, getting over, taking the charge from his team thus far, because he's a believer in this as being a much better second half team after they've had a chance to really feel their way through with the opponent. So right now you look at Jeff Capel with his 201st career win versus Virginia Tech on Wednesday, and they started the season at 8-2. That 3-game slide after a big win versus Duke kind of changed the fortunes of this team right now, but still trying to find a way to get back into the NCAA tournament hunt.
Horton with a quick dish inside for 2, an outstanding pass that led to another Pitt bucket. They're on top 21-18. Coulibaly with 8. He came in averaging only 5 points and 4 rebounds, but he had a 15-point game against Wake Forest earlier this season. So every once in a while, he can really help the offense for the Panthers. And going to be a turnover here by the Cavaliers. Pitt on top 21-18. And we have another full day of college hoops across all of our networks, later highlighted by North Carolina and Duke in a Sonic blockbuster at 6, and a border battle between number 11 Tennessee and Kentucky at Rupp Arena. Both of these games on ESPN and the ESPN app. Coulibaly again, and knocked away by Huff, who is the top shot blocker on the team. They have, 58 blocks? He has 35 of them.
Well, Jay Huff trying to inch his way into the top 5 all time on the Virginia career list for shot blocks, and I believe he will definitely do that before the end of this season. But Jay Huff is special when he's having to guard on the post area. The struggles for him this year have been having to guard on the perimeter.
Another miss, but now the follow by Trey Murphy, the 6'9" junior. Now, he said after Tony Bennett kind of called the team out for not being tough enough 2 games ago, he said, I did not want him saying that about me. So he played particularly well against NC State, but he said, you take those things personally as an athlete. He certainly did, and came back and played much tougher.
Well, and Trey Murphy, who is the leading 3-point percentage shooter for Virginia on this roster, which he has some strong competition in the front court, but he provides a dynamic on the offensive end of the floor that makes Virginia unique.
Shot clock violation with 3:57 to go. ESPN's exclusive
The way they defend, they're out-toughing Virginia right now.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We look forward to you at halftime here. Pitt leading by 1 at John Paul Jones Arena. Corey Alexander, Dave O'Brien from our homes. Mine considerably colder than Corey's down south. The sweet jumper by Hauser, and we're starting to get that back and forth as Virginia goes up by a point.
We are, and I love the point that LaFonso Ellis made regarding having to make Kihei Clark more of a scorer, but you've seen an adjustment from Tony Bennett already in this game, which he's one of the best in the ACC at. Virginia runs that middle pick and roll as Horton's able to knock down another three off a beautiful find from Champagnie out of the trap. But if they run it on this possession, you see how low, well, Huff's not in the game right now, but you see how low they set that screen. Kihei Clark is going to have to be more aggressive trying to score, but it's going to have to be attacking the basket, not settling for three-point shots.
Clark was a big factor in their win last year against them. He had 17 points as Clark can't hit there. Comes in averaging 10 points, 4 assists per game. The point guard, or one of the 2 point guards along with Beekman that Tony Bennett can put on the floor. Up and in, sweetly done by Xavier Johnson against Virginia Tech again. Coming off the bench, he had 32. He also had a 27-point game against Drexel, 23 against Syracuse. He can be a serious offensive weapon.
And Obi, I know this. I know you know this because you are the notorious. But however, I'm not sure everyone recognizes that Xavier Johnson has a little extra pep in his step in this game. He's a third-year point guard, as is Kihei Clark. Xavier Johnson was all-rookie team in the ACC when he came in. Kihei Clark that year won a national championship. When you come in the same class as another point guard, you compare accolades. And right now, these two guys had a battle last year. Kihei Clark had 17 points. Johnson had 16. Virginia won a close game at Pittsburgh. But right now, Xavier Johnson has never beaten Virginia. He's from the state of Virginia. This is a game that he has a little extra pep in his step and wants to come away with the win.
Well, you know about that yourself. I mean, going head-to-head with other guys from Virginia in terms of your own success at the University of Virginia, where you were all ACC. 26-25, Pitt by 1 with about 90 seconds to go in the first half. And boy, coming off the bench, Walter Tensai has filled up a couple from long range.
And Walter Tensai scored 14 points when we had Virginia against Clemson, where Virginia just routed Clemson, beat them by 35 at, at Little John Coliseum. But Obi, that was his first point since then. He had gone 4 games and only played 21 minutes of those 4 games, but 4 straight games where he had not scored. And now Virginia locking in defensively as Champagnie has the turnover, but Champagnie caught in no man's land on that one as we see Walter Tensai with the step back and the 3, and he comes in the game. He's a hired sniper. Hey, it's make shots or come sit down. And right now, Walter Tensai knocking down his first look.
Well, Pitt with 7 turnovers here in the first half. Virginia jumping into the lead 28-26 and the ball here inside the final minute of the first half in Charlottesville. Walter Tensai putting it to the deck. Slamming on the brakes. Clark gives it away, and the slam by Murphy.
And we saw a lot of that from Trey Murphy against North Carolina State, but most of it was off of nice passes from Jay Huff. This time Murphy catching the ball on the block and finishing on his own, showing off his athleticism as Virginia has built a 4-point lead.
On an 8-0 run. Trey Murphy III ascending and making short.
And Pittsburgh's done a great job of keeping Trey Murphy off the three-point line. Only 1 3-point field goal attempt for him, but this is about as easy as you can get for an athlete like Trey Murphy. The easy bucket and just a gamble that turned out negative for Justin Champagnie on the defensive end of the floor. But when you look at it right now, Pittsburgh going to try to bring this down and not give Virginia much time going back down. Probably keep this for the last shot of the first half as 3 seconds separate the shot clock, but they don't want to give Virginia much time to go down and get an opportunity on the other end before halftime.
It's the biggest lead of the ball game for the Cavaliers, by the way. Gives you an idea how tight it's been. Johnson looking to penetrate, slapped away, still loose. He races back to pick it up. 5 seconds to go, and a reach in and a foul with 4.3 showing on the clock.
And that's a break for Pittsburgh. Johnson over-penetrating, and Sam Hauser doing a great job helping. But Reese Beekman coming in, and there's a rule of thumb that if there's a foul, the basketball goes up in the air. If it's not a foul and you got the ball, then the ball goes straight down. Because if you get the basketball, there's no way the ball can go up in the air, correct? This is a little pickup game rule right here, Obi. So that to me looked as though Reese Beekman probably got some risk since the ball flew up into the air.
Kelly 1 of 2. Time to get a heave up in the air. They're going to be well short, so that's our score at halftime. Virginia with the 30-27 lead here in Charlottesville over the Pitt Panthers. The Jeep halftime report coming up with Reese, Seth, and Fonz.
There it is. Go ahead and have you with us.
We'll look at our Ally first half stats. Pitt started the game hot and took a 7-0 lead. Virginia started to chip away. They ended the first half on an 8-1 run. Three-point shooting been a problem for Pitt, not necessarily a strength. Much bigger for Virginia, and they got that going late in the half, making 6 out of 15 threes. So set for the second half here in Charlottesville at John Paul Jones Arena. Virginia ranked number 14 in the country. Pitt trying to pick up back-to-back top 20 opponents. It had been a couple of years since they beat anybody in the top 20. Now they're trying to do it against Virginia Tech and Virginia in consecutive games. And the Cavaliers begin the second half with the basketball. And
from a tendency standpoint,
first touch.
Obi, but from a tendency standpoint, Pittsburgh is a better second half team. They average 8.3 more points per second half than they do in the first half. Virginia hasn't been great in their last 2 second halves, so we'll see how this one goes down between these two teams as Kihei Clark misses from up close. And Clark took 5 3-pointers in the first half. And right now it looks as though Pittsburgh is going to try to make him more of a scorer than facilitator. Tony Bennett giving Kihei Clark an opportunity to take his man to the bucket early, but just unable to finish it off.
He can do it. He had 19. He was a bright spot in that loss to Gonzaga early in the season. Champagnie, and that's how the ball game got underway with a play like that as he drops in his first basket of the second half.
But that is what you like to call sharing the sugar right there. Nice. And then Xavier Johnson got double teamed. He just gave the ball up easily to Koulibaly, who was able to make a nice find to Champagnie, putting Sam Hauser in a tough spot.
Clark on a nice scoop. Got an excellent screen there from Huff, the 7-footer.
And Obi, that was one of the areas where I seen Tony Bennett make an adjustment in this game alone. If you look at the middle screen and roll action between Jay Huff and Kihei Clark, that screen is being set about the free throw line because they don't want Kihei having to run the screen and roll out past the three-point line because that Pittsburgh is not honoring him out there. So they make that a lower opportunity. So when he gets in the painted area, he's in scoring range already. You know, Pittsburgh just sharing the basketball. Xavier Johnson with a nice feed through the double team, and then Koulibaly finding Champagnie. But see how low that screen and roll action is. Normally you see that well beyond the three-point line, but once Kihei Clark comes off that screen, he's already in scoring area. So I like the adjustment by Tony Bennett, recognizing that Jeff Capel is going to force Kihei Clark to be a scorer.
Ithiel Horton driving and taking that foul. He's the Panthers' #1 3-point threat. Another guy who Jeff Capel elected not to start in the victory over Virginia Tech, and man, did that work out well. I always think that's a bit of a gamble when you bench a couple of guys, as Beekman has to go to the bench with 3 fouls. Could be very big for the Cavaliers, one of the 2 point guards heading to the bench for Tony Bennett. But it was a gamble that certainly paid off for Coach Capel.
Well, he got their attention. I mean, and remember now, Pittsburgh was coming off of 3 consecutive losses after a big win at home over Duke. He told his team they needed to grow up. They had to be better. They had to mature, and they did not do that going on the road and losing to Wake Forest right after that Duke game. So as Jay Huff is able to come off, and Kihei Clark continues to be aggressive attacking the basket. But if you go over to try to block his shot, you're giving Jay Huff easy opportunities if he doesn't finish. But, you know, that move by Jeff Capel worked because he got the attention of both Xavier Johnson as well as Ithiel Horton. Both those guys came back and had big performances against Virginia Tech, and they win at home.
Johnson for Champagnie. Shot clock inside 10. Taking it to the paint. Chasing his own miss. And on the line, so it goes back over to the Cavaliers.
And Kihei Clark continues to operate in the paint. Another low pick and roll, and although he's unable to finish, now that's the one we got to see. Was that a pass, Obi?
Yeah.
Or was that a okay? I'm going to give him the assist on that one. I'm going to give him the assist on that. That's not a shot.
34-31. I know what the conversation is back in the huddle when they go to a timeout. Man, I'm glad you saw that coming. That was my best pass of the year.
But I will tell you this,
about.
Obi. I'll tell you this, Obi. The official stat keepers called it a shot.
Yeah,
because he had 4 first half assists, and he still has 4 assists. So the official stat keepers called that a shot. I'm going to call down, let them know, hey, wait a minute. No, that was a pass.
That's a call.
I had a number of those in my career where, ball might not have hit the rim, somebody follows it up.
Hauser with a sweet touch. As you said, as we came on the air, Sam Hauser does not worry about the rim. Oh, what a tough drive. Johnson takes the contact, too. You talk about a determined effort into the lane.
Well, and determined because what we talked about in the first half, Obi, this matchup for Xavier Johnson is personal. 1, it's personal against Kihei Clark. 2, it's personal against his home state team. He's from the state of Virginia. He's Northern Virginia guy, and he's playing against the University of Virginia, who did not recruit him and recruited Kihei Clark. So, again, not that Virginia was wrong for recruiting Kihei Clark, who has a national championship ring and an all-ACC performer, but Xavier Johnson uses that as motivation coming into this game.
Xavier out of Woodbridge, Virginia, the 6'3" junior. And Virginia on top 36-34 and the basketball here in Charlottesville. Back for Clark. Shot clock to 6. Clark giving it up. Here's Murphy, got to let fly. And an ugly looking shot.
And Trey Murphy is a great shooter, not just a good shooter, but a great shooter. But he has to do his shooting off of catch and shoot. And right now, Xavier Johnson and his Pittsburgh team picking it up in the second half, similar to the way they started the game. But they are a better second half team. And you can see right now they have just a little more bounce in their step, coming out playing with a large level of confidence.
And a steely eye, too, whenever Xavier Johnson is on camera. Inside for Hauser, going up strong, and he'll draw the foul. So Sam Hauser will be at the line. 15:58 to go here in the second half, all tied at 36. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Progressive. Slender lead, 51-49. Look at the point totals. Over 100 meetings, and we do this every year. We roll this kind of a graphic, but it's still pretty amazing, Corey.
Well, and Duke swept the series last year, so if you go back, it was 49-49. So, before that, when you think about these two teams, and you hear it is so cliche, but you throw out the records, it doesn't matter who's ranked what, who's not ranked. When they get together, it is a flat-out brawl, and it's always entertaining. And I hear people say it all the time, Duke, North Carolina always delivers.
Pitt off to a good start shooting it in the second half. Although a misfire here by Johnson. They had made 3 out of 4. Virginia by 2. In a game that has the feeling of one that goes right down to the wire. Virginia preseason number 4 right now, 14. Fascinating that Duke and North Carolina, neither team is ranked going into the matchup tonight. Here's Huff to let fly and hit a 3-pointer.
And he is such a problem to defend, because when you consider 7 feet and his ability to be able to score around the rim, especially catching lobs and offensive rebounding, but when you have the ability to shoot the ball from beyond the arc, as Jay Huff does, it really, is a distraction to your defense, because most bigs are used to being in the painted area. They're not used to having to go out and guard a guy at 22 feet, but Jay Huff is special from beyond the arc.
Tight defense there by Hauser all over Champagnie. May have forced a shot there. Coming in 19 points, 12 rebounds a game, Justin Champagnie. And 8 double-doubles. We'll see. He really gets firing here in the second half. Virginia on top 41-36.
More pick and roll action, and again, Kihei Clark attacking, but once again, Jay Huff spacing the floor and knocking down another three. Most 7-footers will be rolling to the basket for a dunk. Not Jay Huff. Number 30, finding behind the arc like another.
And Jay Huff in the center of it, Corey.
Well, and Jay Huff is such a problem simply because he shoots 62% from the field, but yet he shoots threes. And when you've got a 7-footer that can space the floor this way, it puts so much pressure on your defense, especially for big men who are used to having to help and recover. But when you're recovering out to 22 feet, that makes a difference. You look at Jay Huff's improvement throughout his 4 years, really 5 years at University of Virginia. He was a redshirt his first year, and right now it's continuing to get better and better each year. And to me, Obi, he's playing at a first-team All-ACC level when you consider what he does, not only offensively, but defensively as well. Second in the ACC in field goal percentage, second in the ACC in block shots per game. Jay Huff putting on in his 5th year at Virginia.
Yeah, he got married last September to fellow Virginia student Lindsay. And Jeff Capel right now not delighted. The game started out quick for his team. He was very happy then. Very different look on his face, but the turnovers contributing. 44-36 Virginia.
And that look from Jeff Capel is because he knows how difficult it is when you allow Virginia to start stretching the lead. With many teams, you can make a comeback, which Pittsburgh has done multiple times this season. But with Virginia, the later you get into a game and the further that lead comes, it's so difficult for them to get them to give up that lead because, as we mentioned before, they don't turn the basketball over much and they make their free throws. So it's hard to make comebacks against team as such. So right now, Coach Capel trying to find a way to keep this game close.
Wolitensa at the line. 6'5" senior from Italy. Tony Bennett, 4-time ACC Coach of the Year. Trying to win for the 13th time and trying to improve to 9-1, which is number 1 right now, 8-1 in the ACC. So Virginia into double figures with the lead. Gordon on the wing. Champagnie's got to get rolling. Into the lane he goes strong. Tried to bank it, but not there for him.
And give Sam Hauser a tremendous amount of credit. You know, Hauser and Huff have struggled at times this year defensively, and I'll throw Murphy into that mix as well. But Sam Hauser accepting the challenge of guarding Justin Champagnie one-on-one, especially when they're not double teaming, which they haven't done here in the second half. And he's gotten the better of Champagnie in this game thus far on both ends of the floor.
Sam Hauser, the Marquette transfer, leading Virginia in scoring, rebounding, and three-point attempts. He started at Stevens Point High School in Wisconsin. And that's where Tony Bennett was destined to play had his father not taken a college job at Wisconsin Green Bay. And of course, if you look through high school records all over the state of Wisconsin, you'll see Bennett's everywhere in men's and women's basketball.
Yeah, Tony's sister actually did attend Stevens Point.
Hauser straight on. Yes, as he buries a triple. And now, to your point, just about 90 seconds ago, Corey, it's getting away. It's a 13-0 run for the Cavaliers.
It is. And I sure hope we had a camera on my young guy, Chase Coleman, under the basket right there, throwing the threes up, letting everyone know that as soon as Sam Hauser caught the basketball with that much space, it was going to be good. Chase Coleman, who Tony Bennett refers to as the coach on the bench, and he challenged Chase Coleman to coach up the guys on the bench and make sure they have their energy on a game-by-game basis. And a lot of respect for Chase Coleman from Tony Bennett. Gives him a lot of freedom, not only as a player, but as a coach for this team.
It is time for the Pitt Panthers. Virginia starting to run away, 52-36. Hauser once again, nothing but net.
Second half, no problem for the Who's so far. Kihei Clark getting his coaching lesson on right now. And when Tony Bennett has given Chase Coleman an opportunity to be almost as part of the coaching staff for this Virginia team. And Chase Coleman got minutes a year ago when they did not have a true backup for Kihei Clark. Reese Beekman taking those minutes now, but Chase Coleman really has been challenged to coach the bench. And Tony Bennett talked to us yesterday about the fact that after practices, you know, or even during practice, he will see Chase Coleman pull one of his teammates aside and basically show them what they should be doing, what they should not be doing during a certain play, on a certain defensive set, or whatever it may be. And he has not asked him to do that. He takes that upon himself to do it. He loves the fact that Chase Coleman is a leader amongst his group. Even more importantly, the fact that he's not getting minutes, but not moping about that, just going out, doing his job, doing anything he can to try to help this team win. And of course, his family right now is at home not hearing this because his brother Matt is in the midst of a 65-65 game against Oklahoma State. So they will be tuning back into this one soon.
Yeah. They're going to watch it on replay, not necessarily in the moment, and we forgive them for that. By the way, Virginia had bolstered their lead to 52-36 before the triple. Champagnie grabbing the rebound on the baseline, and that won't fall. Tony out battling everybody back to Champagnie. He'll draw the foul with 11:06 to go.
I'm talking to my girl V. Coleman last night, who's also a Virginia alum, class of 1995, and asking her about what she would be doing in this game or during this game time when Texas played at 3, Virginia played at 4, how they would go about watching it. And she says, well, both games will be recorded. We start with that, but we go back and forth, flipping back and forth throughout the game. Her only wish is that Virginia and Texas make it to the Final Four, as we see the Coleman family cheering on Matt and Texas and Chase at Virginia at the same time. But, you know, when you look at the reverence of this coaching staff, and it's not even though Chase is going to them. He's actually, the coaches are coming to him, talking to him about strategy and what they need to be doing in this game. I love it. He came to Virginia. He had opportunities to be a Division I player in many other places. He chose to come to Virginia because he had that much respect for Tony Bennett, wants to be a coach, and wanted to learn from Coach Bennett.
I mean, you know, if you're of that kind of player where you want to be a head coach one day, well, the 10 side fighting for Tony, hitting the deck. Great hustle there, and a tie-up on the play with 10:49 to go. I mean,
yeah, tremendous hustle.
if you can get into some of these schools you're talking about, you know, Virginia, if you can go to Duke, if you go to North Carolina, yeah, I mean, learn at the feet of Coach K or Roy Williams or Tony Bennett. But I mean, it sounds like this young man's going to be a head coach one day.
Well, and that's the plan. And Obi, I will tell you this because I was involved in his recruitment process. The one place that he would have gone in comparison to coming to Virginia to play was Yale. And when he did not get the opportunity to go to Yale, he said, I wanted to go to Virginia. But I mean, I know for me personally at age 18, there's no way I would have made a decision looking that far forward into my future. You know, most teenagers are microwave society, instant gratification. They're thinking, hey, let me play, let me get to the NBA, do whatever I can. But this young man simply said, I want to be a coach and I want to learn from the best, and had built a relationship with Tony Bennett because of the recruitment of his brother, and had that much respect to also to follow mom. Now, this is mom's alma mater. He wanted to make sure he followed mom as well.
I'm sure that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
Last note on him, because Chase has gotten way too much TV time in this one. He wears number 12, which I'm thinking is from, you know, his older brother, me, but he then told me, no, my dad wore 12, so I'm kind of like, forget that.
Big answer there by Walden Tensai, who's done that throughout the afternoon here. To bump it back to 55-43.
Yeah, Walden Tensai, we mentioned, hadn't scored in the last 4 games. But the last time he scored, he had 14 points versus Clemson in a game that you and I did, Obi. And then, of course, he has 11 in this one. So maybe it's us. You know, maybe we didn't think about the fact that maybe we bring him this level. I won't call it luck. Of opportunity.
Never luck. Of course not. Well, he had some really bright spots a year ago, too. He had 18 in that game-winning shot against Carolina. But he is sizzling here this afternoon and into the evening.
Well, he's a capable scorer, no question about it. Knockdown shooter, made 7 threes versus Louisville a year ago. As Justin Champagnie went down, the official's going to call the timeout to make sure he's okay. But Champagnie letting everyone know, I'm not going out of the game. As you see, Walter Tenzai coming off the screen and Champagnie getting clipped by Cafaro. I tell you what, that hurts for both guys. But the fact that Francisco Cafaro didn't even flinch.
Yes.
I mean, he took the knee on the inside. I mean, banging knees is about as painful as you can get for about a 30-second span. And Cafaro never even flinched.
No, you run into him, 7-footer from Argentina, you're going to feel it for a week. And Champagnie has to go out for a moment. Going up on the 9-minute mark here in Charlottesville. Nice spin move and up and in for two. Odekale, the 6'5" freshman, showing you a little something there with that bucket.
Odekale was actually got a start last time out for Pittsburgh. As we talked about Xavier Johnson not starting the game, and he's been productive in giving Pittsburgh very good minutes here as a freshman.
Hauser, little fall away, and two more for him. He's been lighting it up here in the second half.
He is 8 for 9 from the field right now, 3 for 4 from beyond the three-point arc. It doesn't get much more efficient than that. And you throw in 3 rebounds as well and an assist. And Sam Hauser having himself a pretty spectacular afternoon. And you and I talked about this before. When you talk about Justin Champagnie, whose team right now is 5-4, and really ahead of expectations for where they were picked to be this year, leading the ACC in both rebounding and scoring. Does he get a nod because of his numbers over Sam Hauser, who is the best player on the best team and being very efficient right now and going to the mid post, and then the nice somewhat dream shake right there, but the turnaround jumper to finish over the top. And right now Virginia just all over Pittsburgh in the second half.
Well, look at this. I mean,
77% from the field.
They can't miss. In fact, they've made 7 consecutive shots, 5 out of 6 from three-point land. You bring up a point that, especially if you have a vote for an MVP or player of the year or the best player in the league, which way do you go? The guy who puts up the best numbers, but maybe his team doesn't win as many games? Great defense inside on the interior here by Virginia. That jumper catches nothing but air, and a whistle right there on the baseline. Or do you go with the guy who has a terrific year, maybe not statistically as good as somebody else, but his team wins? We'll talk about that when we come back. At the horn. That was to force overtime. That was not a game winner.
Yeah, we talked with Jeff about that yesterday as we get an opportunity to look at Jeff and Jason Capel, both the brothers, and their records during that series, and neither one of them very good. And I can remember Jeff's win. I know his one win came in 93-94 when he and Grant Hill led Duke to the 1994 Final Four. And which means that he lost everyone after that. But for Jason, and really they were at Duke and North Carolina respectively at the times where the other program was really, really good. Not that either of those programs have ever been bad, but when you consider the times they were there, the other team was really, really good during those series.
Well, Virginia making it look a little too easy. This was a very close game for the longest time. In fact, Pitt got off to a great start as Tony floats one in and takes the hit as well, 62-47.
And this is the forgotten guy for Pittsburgh, Au'Diese Toney, who does the job defensively, but not getting credit really around the league for being a 15.7 rebound per night guy. Right, his production and improvement has been significant throughout his career. And you have to remember, he was one of the guys that came in as a freshman along with Xavier Johnson in Jeff Capel's first year. and was, and grew up kind of on the fly, got a lot of minutes early, but give Pittsburgh, Jeff Capel, Jason Capel, Milan Brown, Timoto, all those guys a lot of credit for their development and what they've been able to do at Pittsburgh thus far.
I agree with you, Tony. Certainly one of the most underrated players in the ACC. He's hit some big games, 22 against Duke. He can score it, he can rebound. 62-47 in a game that was tied at 36. Back to our earlier conversation about which way would you vote for ACC Player of the Year. Sam Hauser's in the conversation. Champagnie right now, probably the odds-on favorite, 19 points, 12 rebounds a game. Which way would you be choosing right now?
That is tough for me because I am a firm believer that when you take a Player of the Year, most valuable player, it is the one guy that had to do more for his team to be successful. And right now, Justin Champagnie is having to do more for Pittsburgh to be successful. He had 31 points, 14 rebounds versus Duke. He's had 8 double-doubles this season. No, I'm sorry, he averages a double-double on the season. And he's had 8, 20, and 10 games. As we get a look right now to see what actually happened, the officials are.
Yeah, this is Trey Murphy stepping onto the floor.
Yeah, so 6 players on the floor for Virginia.
That gives him 6, yeah.
Yeah. Tony Bennett tried to get him off the floor quickly, but that's going to be a technical foul.
So 6.5 minutes to go. And too many men. 62-47 Virginia really opening it up. They went on a 16-0 run.
But at this point, if I'm Trey Murphy, I might want to sit down because right now there's still 6 guys in the screen. And so the damage has been done, but it's probably a time to, hey, go have a seat and not be in a scenario. Tony Bennett tried his best to get Trey Murphy back off of the floor. Not sure what the conversation's about regarding right now, but Tony Bennett, the great point guard, noticing it, but a little too late where the officials had already noticed it as well.
So the technical foul, Johnson at the line. Trey's a little bit difficult to hide away at 6'9", so that wasn't going to work.
Well, here's the other
conversation there.
Here's the other problem, Obi, with the new COVID benches, which understanding what they are. But look how far Trey Murphy is away from the court. So to be involved in the action, look where his chair is. So to be involved in the action, and granted, we've seen Chase Coleman, who has the best seat in the house, right underneath the basket. But Trey Murphy just trying to be involved in the action, cheering on his team, and taking too many steps onto the floor. He wasn't as though he was trying to be in the game, just lost track of where he was.
Right. It's not like he went, and checked in. Just lost track of where his seat was. So Pitt unable to convert inside. And Virginia, stolen away from behind by Johnson. Johnson on the drive. He'll lay it in. So he converted that in a heartbeat.
And Pittsburgh was in this scenario in their game against Wake Forest, got down double figures in the second half and made that a game to where Xavier Johnson missed an opportunity at the buzzer to win the game. So you can't put it past Pittsburgh to be able to come back and make this a game, but they've got to find a way to get stops. Virginia shooting 75% now in the second half of this game. Kihei Clark, the beneficiary of a nice pass there.
The Cavaliers absolutely sizzling in what was a very tight game until the early moments of the second half. Back to the last basket on a nifty spin underneath by Clark.
And there's no quit in Xavier Johnson, recognizing Jay Huff trying to handle the basketball and then getting to the rim with a nice finish to put points on the board. But right now, Virginia still holding a 13-point lead as Jay Huff has now picked up his 4th foul. And he has been special here in this second half. Pittsburgh's had no answer for him. But does this give Pitt a bit of momentum now that he has to go sit down and they don't have to worry about trying to guard the center from beyond the 3-point line?
Xavier Johnson to the line, an 80% foul shooter, but misfires on that one. Pressure on Hauser. Of course, in 2019, in a stunning decision, both Hauser brothers, Sam and his younger brother Joey, announced they would transfer from Marquette. Initially, they were expected to come to the same school, but Sam chose to come here to Virginia. Joey picked Michigan State, both sitting out last season because of NCAA transfer rules, and rebounded away by Champagnie.
And you can see Kihei Clark thinking about his shots. He's a much better shooter when he's just instinctive and catches the basketball and shoot. He sized that last one up and missed terribly.
Went in strong there, and a foul on the play. And going to be an offensive foul on Kihei Clark.
And Kihei Clark getting out in transition. And this is not something you see from him often. And Xavier Johnson, now, his feet look very close to that line. And maybe he moved forward and got in front of that line at the last second, but I'm not sure if he got there in time before Kihei Clark gathered into a shot.
Long distance shot won't drop for Horton, but a rebound up and in. And, you know, Pitt continues to work at this thing, only down by 11. Champagnie was 16, so he's right on top of his average, and still within striking distance, just under 4.5 to go. Well, the 10 side thought about it. He has been absolutely on fire. Clark trying to baseline and contact, and another offensive foul. He's picked up his second one.
And this is not something that is characteristic of Kihei Clark. Back-to-back turnovers on offensive fouls. And as important as he is to Virginia, now with 3 fouls, he finds himself, and I won't call it foul trouble, but he's getting close. And Virginia now with 8 second-half turnovers has been the only thing that has stopped them. Pittsburgh hasn't stopped them when they've gotten their opportunities. But Virginia has had a number of self-inflicting wounds to allow Pittsburgh to stick around.
Champagnie can't hit there, torn away by Hauser. And a whistle there with 3:50 to go. Not a great idea to put Virginia at the foul line. They hit 82%, 64-53, the Cavaliers.
5-Hour Energy helps you get stuff done. And now, when you purchase
Armando Bacot, big double-double. Last time North Carolina and Duke met, 17 minutes away from tip-off.
Well, we check out the ACC standings. Virginia #1 at 8-1. FSU running into a lot of COVID issues lately is 6-2. But Duke and North Carolina square off tonight. It's much bigger for Duke to win that game than North Carolina. Is it not, Corey? Would you fall on that end of that argument?
Well, I would say that it would do Duke better justice to win that game. It would help them more because a loss to North Carolina really solidifies that they have not performed the way that they need to be involved in the NCAA tournament this year. North Carolina is hanging on. They're one of those teams that's in the mix to be able to get a bid. But if they lose to Duke, that may knock them on the outside of that bubble. So big game for both teams. A lot to be, gained from a win and loss for both teams. Also, the fact that you're 8 miles apart and it's the biggest rivalry in college basketball, that plays a part too.
There's that too, yeah. 3.5 minutes to go here in Charlottesville. Virginia with a 64-53 lead. Pitt not out of it yet. They need a hot hand. That's usually Justin Champagnie, #11.
And they got the matchup they wanted with the switch for Champagnie.
Had one shot there by Horton. Yeah, Horton lays it in over the shoulder.
Pitt, a very good rebounding team. They're second in the ACC in total rebounds, over 40 per game, and they get it done on the offensive board as well. And also remember, Jay Huff on the bench with 4 fouls is a difference maker as Virginia unable to handle the pressure and giving Pitt another opportunity to finish. And now we turn around, Obi, this is a 7-point game.
Yeah, this is a 12-2 run for Pitt. And they've closed the gap to 64-57. A lot of turnovers in the last 6.5 minutes for Virginia. That's very uncharacteristic.
Yeah, 7 turnovers in that span, as you mentioned. So right now, Virginia trying to find a way to operate offensively, and they're doing it. And oftentimes, you know, when you have one of your guys out, things can get a little discombobulated, as they have thus far. You take Jay Huff off the floor, and now you've got Hauser operating at the 5 position and Murphy operating at the 4. And just like that, we see Jay Huff back up into the huddle. We may see him back soon.
We get a timeout. 64-57. North Carolina Duke coming up in our NBA Saturday primetime matchup on ABC and ESPN. Steph and the Warriors playing the second of 2 games in Dallas against Luka and the Mavs. Part of a 4-game Texas road trip, and they'll play the Spurs Monday and Tuesday. Our coverage begins with NBA Countdown at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Huff getting ready to check back in, the 7-1 senior in foul trouble. But Pitt on a charge here late, Corey.
And Pitt has been able to do it with some offensive rebounding off the miss. You see Horton getting inside and the reverse layup, but then the defense turning into offense. Xavier Johnson getting in the passing lane, and Audice Toney getting out in transition, able to finish through the contact. Pittsburgh then able to pick up their pressure full court. And what really uncharacteristically, Kihei Clark has had the turnovers in the second half. Went into halftime with 0 turnovers, had 4 second-half turnovers. And he's the guy that's normally shorthanded with the basketball in his hands for the Wahoos.
Virginia without a point in about 4 minutes, and will draw the foul in the lane with 2:14 to go. Reese Beekman, the 6'3" freshman, has been pretty quiet, but has moved into the starting lineup. Fouled on this play, and he'll be at the line. And you look at Virginia, 82% at the foul line, number 2 in the country. And not spent a lot of time there today. We'll see if that changes down the stretch.
And Beekman missing the free throw, shooting 84% in ACC play, 21 of 25 going to the line. Goes 1 for 2. And now 8-point game, 2:14 remaining, more than enough time for Pittsburgh to try to cut deeper into this lead.
They need Champagnie in a big way here in these last 2 minutes. He gets a touch and deflected away by Virginia. So Pitt will retain possession here with 2:02 to go.
Jeff Capel going to match Virginia, get Coulibaly back into the game with Jay Huff on the floor. Coulibaly has given them good offensive production as well as doing the job defensively in the painted area. He struggled trying to rotate out to Jay Huff a number of times.
Johnson, quick dish. Boy, a difficult angle by Champagnie, could not get it to go.
Yeah, Champagnie got behind the backboard, tried to go back and put some touch on it to get a bucket, but he's actually had to force a couple of shots where we're not used to seeing from him. But give Virginia's defense a tremendous amount of credit for that happening today.
As it's slapped away, but a foul from behind on Coulibaly as he reached for it. North Carolina and Duke coming up at the top of the hour. 65-57 Virginia as they look to hang on and go to 9-1 in the ACC in first place in the conference. 1:43 to play, and Huff at the line where he shoots 89%. 0 for 1 so far today. Mentioned that he got married in September. Some of the guests were wearing masks with his full beard on them. Which was a nice touch. Not a nice touch at the line for him today.
Yeah, 0 for 2 for Jay Huff, as you mentioned, shooting 89%, but 0 for 2 and missing the front end of a 1-and-1, and more importantly, gets split on the double team. Doesn't end up being damaging for Virginia, but that's not something you see often versus Virginia defense. As if Horton was able to catch that clearly, the officials are actually going to go look at this, because Horton did actually reach for the basketball. Gives us an opportunity to look at it as well. Under 2 minutes you can review, but you see Xavier Johnson split, and we know that Trey Murphy hits it. But did Horton actually touch that? on the way out.
Ruled Pitt basketball. But did he lunge and Horton actually touch it at the last moment? You can see he put his hands up.
See Murphy get a hand on it. But right there is a question as to whether or not Horton actually touched that basketball going out of bounds. And none of the angles that we have seen have been able to validate that. And the basketball doesn't change directions on the second attempt. So I believe that's going to remain Pittsburgh basketball.
Indeed it will, with 1:33 to go. So the Panthers have it, looking for their 10th win of the season, coming off their best win of the season as they knocked off number 16 Virginia Tech on Wednesday night in Pittsburgh to snap a 3-game losing skid. Koulibaly off for Tony. Back to the big man, and a block attempt and a foul there on Hauser as he tried for the defensive stop but committed a personal.
And Jeff Capel was against the review at first, but after they got the review and get the ball back, it gave him an opportunity to draw up some great action and get Koulibaly an opportunity at the free throw line. But more importantly, if Koulibaly is able to make both these free throws, not only does he cut into the lead and make this a 6-point game, he can allow Jeff Capel to set up full court pressure, which Virginia has struggled with over the last few minutes.
1 of 2, and Hauser with the rebound. 65-58. Of course, Virginia with 2 point guards on the floor with Clark and Beekman. And looking to run some clock here. Churning toward the 1-minute mark. On the drive, Beekman lays it up off the iron. And it's going to stay on this end.
I believe the officials are going to go look at this one as well. But Reese Beekman with a nice drive, just unable to finish it off, going to the left, but getting back involved in the play. And that looks like it went off Champagnie.
Well, it certainly did there.
Yeah,
his
did
reaction tells
last.
it. Yeah.
So
1 minute to go.
And Virginia going to keep this basketball and an opportunity to burn 20 more seconds off of the game clock. Crucial opportunity here for Pittsburgh to be able to get a stop.
I'm taking a look.
See Champagnie coming in to rebound, getting a hand on the ball, but right there you see that's Justin Champagnie's left hand taking the basketball out of bounds. Reese Beekman had a hand up but got his hand out of the way at the point. Well, I tell you what, Obi, the more we look at it,
isn't that always the way?
Did Beekman actually get a finger on that basketball after it hit Champagnie's hand?
And do you have enough evidence to see that?
I think that's going to be the biggest key. I thought Beekman, on our original look, got his hand out of the way. But I believe that's what the officials are looking at right now to see if Beekman did touch that basketball last, which it looked clearly off of Champagnie at first.
(65-58) Virginia. A pretty good comeback here for the Pitt Panthers. They looked dead and gone about 7 minutes ago.
Yeah, I don't believe there was enough evidence there to overturn that one.
So it will be Virginia ball. And as you mentioned, an opportunity to really burn down some more of that clock for the Cavaliers. They haven't been as good today at the foul line as they typically are, but boy, they can win games at the foul line like nobody's business. So Kihei Clark to put it in for the Cavaliers. Up top for Huff. 50 seconds to go. Shot clock down to 7. He'll drive it and score on a big play by Kihei Clark.
And although he's had some miscues here in the second half, he's the guy, if you're Virginia, you want to have the basketball to make a play in crunch time. Kihei Clark delivers once again.
Tony with a quick strike on the other end. Clark trying to get free out of the double. Hauser with a loose ball. Got it free. And a whistle with 27.1 seconds to go. Boy, Kihei Clark with a huge hoop for him.
And this is how he's built. Kihei Clark is built to make big plays when his team needs him most. And regardless as to how things have gone for him over the past 7 minutes, Kihei Clark not afraid of the moment and being that guy that his teammates can rely on to go make a play when they need it.
Trey Murphy, 88% foul shooter. A 6'9" junior from Durham, North Carolina. And has another one coming for the Cavaliers. Virginia just had their 15-game ACC winning streak broken last weekend. And after that loss, Tony Bennett questioned his team's toughness. His team seemed to hear that because they came out and played much tougher against NC State. Murphy was the guy who said, I want to make sure he's not pointing a finger at me. And the slam by Champagnie. 19 seconds to go and a 7-point lead for the Cavaliers and a timeout.
And Obi, I would have to take it even further and say Virginia has exhibited, a tremendous amount of toughness in this game as well, because this Pittsburgh team is a very tough team physically and mentally. But Virginia was able to match that in this game, especially when things were going not in their direction, and turn that around and most likely turn this into a win.
So 19 seconds to go as Jeff Capel burns his final timeout. Virginia with 2 remaining. And a 7-point lead. North Carolina and Duke still to come next on ESPN.
And Obi, I want to make sure that we get a point across that Jeff Capel mentioned to us yesterday. When you watch college basketball and when you hear people like you and I, commentators, talk about these young men, young women, and what they're doing on and off the court, we need to be reminded that they should be commended for what they have done.
Absolutely.
In playing the sport this season, with all the extremes that they've had to deal with COVID, with the social injustice, everything that has happened this year. Each and every one of these young people need to be commended for going out and putting on the effort, regardless as to what the performance on the floor looks like. They deserve applause for being out there and really just participating at this point.
Well, they are in the arena and competing so hard. The students as well. First and foremost. And a tie-up on the plate, and good defense. It turned out to be a great defensive stop.
Absolutely.
Virginia will have the ball.
But give Pittsburgh credit for not fouling. Been seeing the basketball exposed. Audice Toney getting his hands in there, forcing the possession arrow, and you would expect to see that again in the next trap.
Hauser again doubled up, and another whistle. 13.4 showing. And so it'll be Hauser at 81% heading to the foul line. And again, Virginia as a team at 82%. And Sam Hauser almost never hits the rim with anything.
I'll tell you what, he has been special here this evening. 22 points, 8 for 9 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3. Continues to make his free throws, 6 rebounds, only 1 turnover for Hauser in this game, and a great job defensively as well against possibly the ACC Player of the Year in Justin Champagnie.
So Virginia 71-65 with about 7 seconds to go, and another foul to slow down Kihei Clark, but does not appear it's going to be enough to slow down Virginia tonight as they are churning toward their 13th victory and their 9th in conference play. With a win, the Cavaliers will go to 9-1, first place in the ACC. Kihei Clark at 75%. You make 75% on this team, and you're on the second rung as far as a foul shooter is concerned.
Yeah, they tell you need to stick around after practice and get some more free throws up.
Yes, you do. Well, Pitt with a fine battle here down the stretch. They close the gap, but with 2 seconds to go, Virginia can start celebrating the win. Jay Huff and company with a tough victory against a Pitt Panther team that was trying to make it back-to-back wins against top 20 opponents, as Huff fouls out of the game with 13 points.
But I don't think that Jeff Capel can be disappointed with his team's effort in this game. We've talked about how do they respond after a big win. Well, this is probably the best team they've had to play on that second game, and they came in with the right level of energy. They approached the game the right way. They had a stretch in the second half where they allowed Virginia to build a 16-point lead, but they fought their way back into this to make it a game, and I'm sure Coach Capel was happy with the effort his team has given here tonight.
But Virginia will pull this one out and win again. They're now 13-3, 9-1 in the conference. For Corey Alexander, I'm Dave O'Brien. Thanks so much for joining us. Right now to Dan Schulman and Jay Billis with tonight's Sonic Blockbuster, North Carolina and Duke.
Obie, thank you, and welcome to Saturday Primetime, presented by H&R Block. This is the ACC on